Welcome to Season 2, the Dairy Lane Project. Episode 1 today finds us in Strong's Road with Ray Strong. But firstly, I'd like to thank a few of the dairy farmers in our region who are getting behind the project and supporting it. I hope it continues to be supported and grow amongst your community so I'm able to keep producing this project and perhaps cross the river to continue the work. Ray Strong. Ray grew up in Glenbrae, a home on Strong's Road that has housed 6 generations of his family. His son Wayne currently lives at Glenbrae. Ray Strong is the grandson of William and Eliza Jane Strong, née Boyd. Ray's grandfather William arrived on the Ocean Empress in 1864 with his cousin Alexander. Both were aged 15. They had grown up together in a densely packed house on Loch Ross Point, County Donegal, in Northern Ireland. They then steamed down the south coast to Broughton Creek Wharf. 40 members from 6 related Irish families had arrived on the Ocean Empress. Adam Boyd sponsored 34 of the new settlers, including the 2 Strongs and Walkers. Members also of the Lamon family, 2 of the Clark men, Fanny Hanlon, who was a niece of Alexander Hanlon, and many of them settled in Upper Brogers Creek, working together to clear the land, and many seeking paid work in Kiama on farms. By the way, the Devitts also came from Loch Ross Point and were sponsored also by Adam Boyd, and they started at Woodhill. Both Strong cousins eventually married sisters from the Boyd family. Alexander ended up settling at Harley Hill on 160 acres, and William Strong settled in Jaspers Brush. William Strong and wife Eliza Boyd had 5 sons and 3 daughters, with 2 of their children dying in infancy. They built a home named Glenview, now known as Strong's Road, Jaspers Brush. Their surviving children were Henry James Strong, born in 1876, and he passed away in 1909 after he died suddenly at the Berry Show. Robert Hugh was born in 1897. He married Mabel Barraclough, and he passed away in 1942. Catherine Strong, known as Cassie, was born in 1878, and she married William Clark, and she passed away in 1961. Thomas Alfred Strong was born in 1883, and he had 2 marriages, one to Myrtle Bailey and the second Avis Stocker. He passed away in 1957. Eliza Strong was born in 1885, and she married William Smith. She also passed away in 1957. Now the youngest child, William John Strong, born in 1888, married Margaret Cleland, Ray's parents, and they married in 1924. William passed away when Ray was 6 years old in 1942. Ray's grandfather William became an astute cattle judge and cattle breeder. His bulls and heifers were famous, and he had great success in the show ring. He had one of the best shorthorn milking herds in the Illawarra. He was a committed member of the Berry Wesleyan Church and passed in 1916, aged 68. His wife Eliza Jane passed away 3 years later, aged 75. They're both buried at Berry Cemetery. When the farm was split, Ray's parents moved a weatherboard home from Broughton Vale When the farm was divided in two, it would have travelled on logs to the newly named Glenbrae, named by his mother, a Scottish name. Strong's Road was named by locals after William Strong, who accumulated those 170 acres, Ray's grandfather. The name was made official by either Robert Strong or his brother Alfred, who were both mayors of Berry in the 1930s. Ray is married to Evelyn Cady, C-A-D-Y. Her father was a share farmer and he worked at Tarara, Kiama and Jaspers Brush, where obviously Evelyn met Ray at one of those dances. You'll hear her a little bit in the recording, and she'll have her own recording down the track when we move into Stations Lane, or as we know it, Jaspers Brush Road. Ray turned 90 a few days ago. Belated birthday wishes. Both Ray and Evelyn live in Berry today and have done for a while. I gladly present our recording together, which was undertaken in November 24, and it was during cicada season in summer. I mention that because you'll hear them when I visit Glenbrae with Ray in the final minutes of his story. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed meeting Ray and spending time with both Evelyn and Ray with a cup of tea. Ray, what's your full name and year of birth, and where were you born?
I was named Raymond Henry James Strong, and I was born on the 12th of the 9th, 1935, born at Glenbrae, Jaspers Brush, Strong's Road.
What was the name of the property again?
Glenbrae. The adjoining property was Glenview. Both properties were owned by my grandfather at that stage.
Was your grandfather allocated the original land grant?
Yes.
And what's his full name?
He was William John. Well, he was born in Donegal Island, and they immigrated out here with other families in 1863. They originally set up on farms on Woodhill, Berry, up on the hills. They were there for a number of years before they moved to Broughton Village, where they farmed at Broughton Village for a time, and then the land became available from Alexander Berry at Jaspers Brush, and hence the family moved about 1896, which is now Strong's Road, Jaspers Brush. The reason it was called Strong's Road, one of my uncles became mayor of Berry Municipal Council, and back in that era, well, if you're on council, you got a road named after you, and hence Strong's Road.
Do you recall your uncle's name?
Yeah, Thomas Alfred, T.A. Strong, and his Lady Mayoress, Eliza Jane.
Was he your grandfather's brother?
My father's brother.
Your father's brother?
Yeah, T.A. Strong.
So can you tell me we'll get back to that. Can you tell me your parents' full names?
My father was William John Strong. He unfortunately died when I was 6 years old. He died in 1942. He was 54. My mother, Margaret Helen Cleland, prior to her marrying my father, she was a city girl from Newtown. She obviously fairly talented in her younger years before her marriage, because she was private secretary in one of the largest law offices in New South Wales. Because of her ability with typing speed, I believe, and shorthand back in that era.
Do you recall any law firms?
I used to, but no, it's gone now.
Did she work here?
No.
Do you recall what happened initially with your grandfather?
My grandfather obtained the grant from Berry, and it was probably around 350 acres on the northern side of Strong's Road, 210k up. When my grandfather passed away, the two brothers, Thomas Alfred and William John, the two sons, decided they wanted to go their own way, so they split the farm down the middle, and they each got around 120 acres or in that area. become two properties.
Were they both dairy farming?
Both dairy farming, yes.
Do you know when the land was split?
No, I don't recall that. It would have been early 1900s.
The terrain, can you describe it?
Well, on each parcel of land there was probably 100 odd flat area, and the other acreage was to the north hilly area. And of course they had to do a lot of fencing to split the property up into two.
What type of fences were made?
Barbed wire.
After World War One, they brought the barbed wire in, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know. That'll do.
Clearing the bush.
What were some of the natural grasses and weeds that grow at Jaspers that you recall?
Well, when they went there, the Jaspers Creek runs through the middle of the properties, which was a big bonus, huge bonus to have water on tap for your animals. Along that creek banks, out many metres, was rainforest, right from the hills, or you might call it a mountain, but...
The escarpment?
Escarpment will do, yes. It was all rainforest, and that all had to be cleared, and they pushed that rainforest right back to the escarpment. It went on from Strong's property down onto the neighbour's property. Huge job it was. One of my uncles died in that era, and the coroner's report on it died of overwork.
Thinking about, do you recall what tools they may have used to clear the land, clear the weeds and the vegetation?
Would have been all handheld brush hooks and scythes.
Did you ever use those yourself?
Yes, not very often though.
What would you be using it for, the same thing?
Ferns and tussocks.
What sort of trees were growing?
Cedars were a big thing back in that area. There were heaps of cedar trees along the creek banks.
And you recall that yourself?
Yes.
Still there?
Some, because they're protected these days. My grandfather, he excelled and bred Illawarra shorthorns. He focused on stud prized bulls, and he sold and nurtured them and sold them all over the country when they become of age. We have a lot of photos of those prized bulls in the era, and the guineas that they were sold for around the countryside. That was my grandfather's doing.
Talk a bit more about do you know how the bulls were transported around the region, around the nations?
They used to show all the local shows. He took his animals to Sydney Royal. They used to walk the animals from Strongs Road into Berry Railway Station the afternoon prior to them departing by train in the holding yard down here at Berry, and they would go to Sydney, and I don't know where they were let off in Sydney, and then walked to the show areas in Sydney.
Because it was held at a different location than it is today, of course.
Yes.
Did you ever go yourself?
No, it was before my time, really.
Was there a lot of ribbons passed down?
Oh, there had to be, but as I say, I was too young then.
So they would have been ploughing as well?
Yes, draft horses. We had 3 draft horses, yes.
On your farm?
Yes.
Do you remember the draft horses?
Yes, I do, yeah.
What were you using them for?
Mainly ploughing, harrowing, their only form of motivation, really, before the 50s, when tractors became the norm.
What were you growing?
Mainly sacchaline or sorghum. Corn was the big issue. I suppose we were growing something like 15 acres of corn, I suppose, back then, a year, to fill the 80-tonne silo, food throughout the winter for the cattle, chaffed up.
Did you have the chaff cutters out in the field?
No, in the barn.
Tell me about how that worked, when the crop was ready.
Yes, well, back then we had cane knives, we call them cane knives, and it was all manual labour. You cut each stalk of corn, I call them slides, mode of transport, I suppose, for the produce, and fill it up, and then horse-drawn, and you drag the load of corn up into the barn, and then it'd be all chaffed up through the chaff cutter. unfortunately, when my elder brother, I think he was 14 or 15, he was helping feed the chute of the chaff cutter, feed the corn into the chute. They were a pretty deadly thing, the old chaff cutter with the blades rotating. And anyway, he was feeding it on the wrong side. There was a person on the other side. He was on the wrong side, and his arm went into the jaws of the chaff cutter, and it cut half his hand off. Because he was on the wrong part of the chute. He couldn't reach the clutch.
Do you remember that day?
Yes, yeah. I picked his fingers up out of the pile of chopped up corn.
What happened? How did you get him to a doctor or hospital?
Yeah, I think my mother took him into Bury Hospital. Yeah, he got over it, and it didn't hold him back. He just finished up with those two fingers, and he was cut right through there. Yeah.
So the two smaller fingers he was left with.
A lot of people lost their hands in chaff cutters in that era. A lot of people around here.
What brand of chaff cutter do you remember?
Mainly the stuff was Jaspers stuff back in that era, Jaspers.
How would you order a chaff cutter? How did your dad get the supplies, the machinery?
No idea. It was there before I come on the scene. The silo was built by local people, Jack Blow and Son from Bury. They built most of the silos in this era, and they were all what they termed 80-ton silos.
How many silos were in Jaspers Brush?
I think we were the only ones in Strong's. No, the neighbours had one, that's right. Yeah. There was one on Glenview and one on Glenbrae, but I think they were the only two in Strong's Road.
What do you recall Strong's Road looking like when you were a young boy? How, like walking along Strong's Road, what was it?
It's all dirt, terrible. Council graded it twice a year. Extreme wet winters we had, and it was just at times a quagmire, the length of Strong's Road.
How did the horses get through? The sulkies?
Oh, well, always managed.
So how many cows were you milking in? Let's just quickly talk about the dairy. What type of dairy was it when you were young?
Well, in my era, we always milked roughly between 40 and 50 head, and we always had about 10 dry cattle. I'll call dry cattle. They were in rested, should I say, before they come back into season and milk again. And those cattle were kept up the hill area until it was time to bring them down and mate them with the bull. And
how many bulls?
Only one.
Did it have its own yard?
Yes.
Any bull stories? Pretty crazy, was it?
No, I don't recall any. No.
So your dad was farming the same amount of cattle as you were?
Yeah, virtually. That was about all the property could handle. My mother at times, because she took over the reins after my father passed away in 42, she brought workers and his family in to keep the property going. I don't know how she did, and keeping 5 kids going.
What did her day look like to you as a young boy?
Well, after the farm, it wasn't sustainable to keep the family on. It wasn't making enough money, so they went on to other pastures, another job. So she virtually ran the property with my eldest brother. She'd look after us and help him with the milking night and day as well. When I think back, it was a tough call.
Let's talk about your siblings and how many and their names, and if you remember their years of birth and if they died when.
Yeah, well, my eldest sister I never knew. She passed away with cancer before I was born. She died at 3 years old, which was probably pretty devastating, I suppose, back then.
What was her name?
Clara. And then my eldest sister, Margaret Eliza, she was the eldest then in the family. And then my brother, William John, who was above me, and myself. And then my younger sister, Yvonne Betty, who is the local federal member at the stage.
So that's your niece?
My niece.
Is Fiona Phillips?
Yeah, Fiona Phillips. Yeah.
Okay, so she is your sister's daughter?
Yes.
So hard times back then when your father passed. Must have been devastating for you.
Yeah, well, I was only 6 and, don't recall a lot. My sister virtually raised me. wherever she went on a bicycle into Nowra or into Berry on the bike, I was on the back. I was on the. She took me everywhere. Yeah.
What did it look like on the back of the bike? What was the highway like as a little boy on the back?
Not much traffic. No. Don't recall a lot about it.
Dirt?
No, the highway was sealed. My uncle, who had the property on the top end of Strongs Road, Bill Smith, he didn't own the property, but he leased it, and him and my aunt, they looked after me most of the time in my younger years.
Back then, where was the milk going at that period? Just around before your father passed?
Jaspers Rush had its own dairy co-op down at Railway Road, opposite the station, the Jaspers Rush station. There was a spur line there from the rail to back in and pick up the cream. But that co-op operated for a number of years before it was shut down. So most of Jaspers Rush went to that co-op, took their cream. It was nearly all cream back then. After that closed down, the majority of the farmers in Strongs Road went to Nowra Dairy Co-op. 2 went to Berry Co-op. The 2 that went to Berry Co-op was my uncle Bill Smith from Burnside, the name of the property up at the end of Strongs Road, and my father, William John Strong, and they continued to send milk to Berry throughout their dairying exploits.
How was the milk transported to Sydney back then?
Yeah, all rail, tankers, no refrigeration. But
Tell me about how the milk was collected in the dairy and how big the cans were and how you got the cans to wherever.
Well, it was mainly 10-gallon cans back then. It was pretty heavy because milk's heavier than water because of the solids. There were 8-gallon cans and there were 6-gallon cans. But mainly the 8 gallons and the 6-gallon cans, they were mainly used for cream if you separated milk. And most of the milk that went to Berry by truck, 10-gallon cans.
So at 19, you decided to buy the milk run. Describe what that was and where.
Yes, it was obviously the farm wasn't going to give my brother and I, and also look after my mother, enough revenue. So it was my decision to break away, and I approached one of the farmers, a local farmers who I knew because I'd worked with his show cattle when I was very young.
What was his name?
Lindsay Cochran from O'Keefe's Lane. He said, yes, I'll guarantee you £1,000. So, which he did. Went into the bank and fixed up all the details, and well, that's history. But that gave me my start. It
was £1,000 for the run?
The run, I had 10 suppliers and a truck. And I continued that for...
Just describe a day, what farms you went to and what names you might recall.
Well, as I said earlier, I had two properties sent their produce to Berry Dairy Co-op, and of course I had those 2 on my list. And then I went down O'Keefe's Lane, and I had Denny O'Keefe, I had Pat O'Keefe's property, and I had Lindsay Cochran's, and I had the Holsizer brothers. Then I went on a bit further. Alec Devitt, he was a character, no doubt about that. Anyway, then I had...
Tell me a bit about him. And what was the name of his property? Why was he a character?
Alec loved his whiskey. I won't go any further than that. And then I had Crozier's Road. I had Harry Bates up there, who was a dairy farmer. And I had Fred Willits, a dairy farmer. I had 2 up there. Then I went on a bit further towards Berry, and I had Harold Anderson up on Anderson's Lane to the left, back up on the hills. Rolly Kellett a bit further on, and that was about the extent of it. And I'd finish up, I suppose, in the peak time, from springtime through the summer, of a morning's run. I might have 110 milk cans on my truck. Of an afternoon run, maybe 40 or 50 cans.
Where were they going?
Berry Rural Co-op.
Who lifted the cans onto the truck?
We didn't have any mechanical aids back then. You did it all yourself. I shouldn't complain about how my body is today.
How is it?
No good.
Hard labour.
It was tough, but anyway, that's what you did. I had a young wife and I had kids and they had to be fed, and anyway, we led a good life. We did.
Tell me about what sort of truck it was.
It was a 1946 Bedford, 5 tonne.
What colour?
Brown, the first one, yes, brown. Then I upgraded it to a better 1946 Bedford truck a few years later. So I had a reasonable truck, and I had the old one for spares because I was fairly handy with the mechanical side myself. And later on I really excelled because I bought a real butte truck. We couldn't make enough money out of the transport of milk cans to the co-op, so I needed something better so I could go and use the truck in other areas, which I did. Yeah.
What era was that? What year?
Yeah, mid-50s it would have been.
He used to go around the farms and pick up their big bales of hay and put them in their sheds, and he would go and collect timber from the bush and bring it back into wherever it was ordered, and that was hard work, very hard, yes.
What were you paid for a run?
The milk cans from farm to co-op, the closest to town was 5 cents a can, and I think it went up to about 8 or 9 cents the furthest farm a can. Not a lot of money back then.
I need you to describe the dairy and how it worked.
The dairy out there was built in 1935 on Glenbrae. We call them a 3-tiered dairy. There were 3 bays, 2 cows, 2 cows, 2 cows being milked progressively. All mechanical back in my era.
Suction caps?
Yes, Alpha Lavelle. That was the main milking machine back in that period. From the cow being milked, the milk went through suction lines into the dairy itself, went down over what we called a cooler. It was like a big radiator, and there was cold water running through it all the time, and the milk went down over this radiator effect into the milk cans, so it chilled the milk before it went into the can. Back in that era, well, probably still today, is a big problem occasionally is mastitis with the cattle, and that took a little bit of clearing up. With the very wet winters, the cattle were very prone to what we call the foot rot, and that was a pretty serious thing. That had to bring a vet in with injections and so on, and that took a little while to clear up with cattle because of so much mud around.
Who was the vet that you recall?
Dr. George Boris. I'm not sure what background he was or what country he was from, but he was a very talented man.
What do you remember about him? Seeing that she's pushing her way into this interview.
He always called me Miss Cady. That was my maiden name. Yes, and he always made stories about the day that he came to see the cattle. I don't recall any of the stories, but he was always a character, yes.
So that'd cost you money, the vet?
It did, yes. Don't recall costs, no.
Was it cash or was it a tick? Tick it up?
Well, back then, those costs came out of the monthly milk check, because that's how the farmers got paid.
How would you get things that you needed, and what were you self-sufficient in?
We had a baker, Fred Bamford from Berry. He was one of the 2 bakeries in town. He'd do a delivery to Strongs Road once a week. Bread in those days used to hold all right. When I took over the milk run from Strongs Road to Berry, the farmers all relied on me to bring their supplies from Berry to them that afternoon's run, and that wasn't only bread, that was meat and everything. I think I got paid 1 cent or 2 cents a parcel or something.
What about clothes?
Didn't wear many, barefooted too.
Hats?
No, I never wore a hat.
So you're barefoot?
Most of the time I was barefoot, yeah. No self-respect and a splinter had never got in my foot because I was too tough.
Did you drive barefoot?
Yes, I would have, yes.
What about the local police? Were they around and what were they like?
Yes, we had one sergeant in town for a very long time. He was fairly efficient, but he ran a very good town. He didn't take any nonsense. When I bought my first motorbike, a BSA Bantam 125cc bike. Anyway, this particular Saturday afternoon I'd finished milking, so I rode into town and I was going to have a milkshake because we had 3 cafes in Berry back then. I'm getting ahead of myself. I need a bit of noise out of this little two-stroke, so I knocked all the baffles out of the muffler, made a bit of noise. I'd gone into and have a milkshake, and I noticed our sergeant, he was on the other side of the road. So I parked my bike and I went in and I had my milkshake and I come out and the sergeant was still there, and I thought, yeah, well, he's waiting for me, and he did. He walked across the street and he said, you better start it up, sonny. Anyway, I did, and it was just idling over. So he grabbed the throttle and he revved it. And of course it was noisy. You won't bring it back to town like that, will you, son? He was a tough man, but he ran a good town.
It's probably the most you've ever got in trouble, isn't it? Oh, hang on.
Oh, no, there were a few things.
You don't recall his name?
We termed him the Brown Bomber. He was very dark in complexion, and then he got his offsider in a few years later, and he was very efficient, and we labelled him the Kitty Hawk, the Brown Bomber and the Kitty Hawk. We had the pair of them.
So just...
All right, the copper's name was Len Daly, the Brown Bomber, and his offsider was John Miller, the Kitty Hawk.
What about the cafes? 3 cafes?
Yes, they all seemed to survive.
What were they called?
Oh, Spiro Bellis. I think it was a Greek. I think Spiro. He ran a great cafe. It's where the old chemist was before they moved across the street. It probably had 40 or 50 seats in it. Can't think who the other cafe was further down. And then there was one across the road. But they all survived back in that era. Because after 12 o'clock on a Saturday, well, there was never anybody in Berry. You could have fired a shot up both sides of the street and not hit anybody. And Sunday the same, never anybody in town. Different scenario today.
Did you go to Berry or Nowra mostly? Or both?
No, always Berry.
How did Berry look when you, as a town back then?
Nobody wanted to live in Berry. Everybody wanted to go Nowra. There was no work in Berry, and people didn't travel much in those days, and so even up to the 80s, nobody wanted to live here. Since then, the joints exploded.
Now, Jaspers Brush was its own world in its own way, is that correct? Like you had your own hall?
P&C Association. My father was secretary, treasurer of that while he was alive. It held probably fortnightly, I suppose, I just don't remember, euchre playing and dances, Friday or Saturday night in the P&C hall, the slab-walled hall, which is now where the main highway runs through. That's where it was before it burnt down.
Do you know who built that hall?
No, I've got no recollection on that.
Did you go to the dances?
Yes, well, I wasn't very old, yeah. I don't know, I think we mucked up outside, I suppose.
Your parents went, did they?
Yes.
And the kids would go in the back of the what?
I don't recall.
Tell me about your school life. When you started school, what the name of the school was, and maybe who went to the school, how big it was?
Well, we went to the Jaspers Brush School, which is Jaspers B&B now. It was a one-teacher school. Mr. Bob Williams, he was the schoolmaster the whole time that I went through from first through to sixth class, and that's, you were lined up first class, second class, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and he taught all classes first to sixth.
So when you were lined up, did you have a row each?
Yes, a row for each year.
What do you recall about some things at school? Did you have sports days?
Getting a cane. That was pretty serious stuff.
Did you get the cane much?
No.
It was a non-denominational school? A public school?
Public school, yes.
Did you go to church?
Yes, mainly twice a Sunday, yeah.
What type of church?
Methodist, Bury Methodist Church.
So your grandfather was a Methodist.
Yeah, they were fiercely Wesleyan. Fiercely Wesleyan, yes.
Describe that.
I don't know that I can.
What's the experience of being fiercely Wesleyan?
Well, religion was probably the biggest part of our life. We weren't allowed to pick up a hammer on the farm on a Sunday. We were only allowed to do things that had to be done. Cattle milked. Yeah, they had very strong views. They did.
Oh, just about black and white.
Yeah, that'll do.
Speaking of black and white,
Anyway, I'm pleased those days are over. Yes.
were you hurt?
Was they?
Were you harmed?
No, not at all. No.
What about your mother? Did she continue with those ways?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, she probably mellowed a little over the years, but yes, still very staunch she was. Never any swear words, which I've maintained that all through my life. I've had a few big blow-ups with with people, and through using language in front of my bride, that's never ever happened. I tell them to go away. Go and swear amongst your mates, but not in front of women or kids. Don't do that. Otherwise you're an enemy of mine.
What about drinking? Were you a drinker?
No, never, never ever was, no. Made up for a little bit.
It sort of got a bit more pace as you got older.
I think so.
What do you like to drink today?
Old beer. Black beer, yep. Yeah, we go to the hotel probably three afternoons a week.
Which one?
Great Southern. Yeah, they're very good to us. When I was pretty crook there a number of years ago now, the publican back then, Danny Thompson, I was recuperating and he kept me involved in things and was good. I just about worked at any aspect in that pub back then in my recuperation days. He bought a couple of coaches, buses, and I was in charge of them. I took busloads of people everywhere. I never got any remuneration. I didn't want any. If ever I wanted to drink, well, I got a drink.
What were the buses for?
He'd organised trips within the hotel. Also, he sponsored a lot of football organisations in the Wollongong area, and I'd go and pick them up and they'd come down here and they'd play against the narrow sides and take them back to Wollongong.
So talk to me about conscription.
At age 18, we received a letter that the Korean War was raging at that stage. Australia was sending troops across, and I got the letter that I'm going to be conscripted, and I went into the army, Bardia Barracks, Ingleburn, 3rd intake 1954. It was a three-month training. We were trained to go to the Korean War. Before we'd finished our stint, there was an armistice called, therefore we weren't called upon to go across, but we finished our training and for the next 5 years we were still involved in training within the area. We probably thought it was pretty tough at that stage, but it was probably the best thing that ever happened to get discipline into us young blokes. And when we reflect on that, we need it urgently today.
And why is that? Why do you feel that?
Because I believe that youth is out of control in this country, and I'm sure they would get a hell of a shock if they were conscripted into the army when we have good, superior men training them.
Did you play any sport yourself?
I played rugby league for Bury Shallow and Heads Rugby League Football Club in the 50s. I only played 18s for 2 years.
Were they called the Magpies then?
They were, yes.
How'd you go?
Awful, I'd say.
Yep.
My main interest, I suppose, has been throughout my whole life, has been motor racing. I motor raced for 17 years all over this country. Mixed success, wonderful times.
What sort of car did you start with?
My love was always sports cars, not factory sports cars, sports racing cars, fiberglass bodied sports cars and beautiful bodied sports cars. And I picked up this little Herald Special. It was for sale in Liverpool, and I went and bought it. And that started my career, if I can call it a career. That started my career off. I went through another couple of cars. I drove in I was fortunate enough to get a co-drive in Surfers Paradise 12-hour race back in '67. We won a class there. Main claim to fame, I suppose, was the third in the Australian Championship. Sports car championship, yeah.
Where was that held?
That was held in all circuits over Australia, Western Australia, yeah.
What were you driving then?
It was an English-built special sports car, a Chevron BMW powered car, yeah, beautiful race car. I bought that car for $4,000 back in 1970 or 71, $4,000. I competed in it and maintained it for about 3-4 years, I suppose, and I sold it for $4,000. And that car today is still in this country, but it'll be snapped up overseas, and it will realise just under $1 million. It's the only one in Australia. Well, you do some silly things for your life. Anyway.
I'm glad you did. Was that an expensive sport?
Well, as a privateer, it was fairly expensive, but mostly my cars with prize money covered most things until I was fortunate enough to get picked up by BP Australia for a contract. I didn't know I was alive until then. Fair income. Brilliant. Wherever I went, there was a workshop for me. I got paid. Wherever I was travelling, petrol money, accommodation at the end. How long's this been going on?
When did that happen? How old were you?
Oh, I was still in my 30s, right?
Yes.
Late 20s when I started, I suppose, but yeah.
So you're a pretty good mechanic.
I was self-taught. It wasn't until later years when one of the federal governments, they forced us into having qualifications in the mechanical trade. So I had to do a night TAFE course, and yeah, I got through that.
What's your favourite track?
Oh, the now defunct Warwick Farm, wonderful circuit. Warwick Farm, Bathurst probably second, and the other defunct one, Oran Park.
Your wife go with you, or?
Whenever she could.
What gave you the endurance for motor racing? What did you love about it?
Quest for speed, I suppose. Safely, of course. I had a few altercations on different circuits, but nothing too horrendous. It only cost a few dollars, that's all, the repairs. I never entered a race expecting to come second. I bought something that I thought I could be competitive.
From beginning to end, how long were you in the industry?
Motor industry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we had the servo over here back in the 50s for 12 years.
What was the name of that servo and where over here?
BP Prince's, opposite the pub. It used to be a BP, now a Shell. We had the lease on that for 10, 12 years, I suppose. The better your figures turned out to be, well, the higher the rent went up. We made a decision. We had dear friends at Bombay who was also in a little Ampol servo down there, and he used to follow me around and give me a hand in the motor racing department. So we got together and we finished. I said, well, no, we'll hang the rent. Let's do something ourselves. So we built the servo, the one between the two schools in Camberwell Road, Bombay. We built that with BP Australia's help. Because of my involvement with BP through my motor racing, they outlined a deal for us. They would build the servo and we would repay it $0.01 a litre of fuel that we sold. It probably took 12, 15 years, but it was paid off. But wow. Camberwell Road, basketball stadium, just down the hill on the left-hand side. Anyway, that partnership, it lasted for, I think, 17 years.
What were the kind of changes you saw in the 17 years in fuel?
Price. When we left Berry, the servo in Berry, it was 5 gallons for $2. Just 4.5 litres in a gallon. You work that out.
Who delivered the fuel?
Our tankers always come from Sydney. When we went into partnership with Hugh McLean, who was the other chap, together at Monterey, we opened a joint up as a speed shop. We did all modifications back then. That was our main business. The Albatross, heaps of young blokes out there and all had money to spend, and yeah, so we had good clientele. We had the contract for the local police fleet. We had 2 Triumph motorcycles we serviced, and we had 2 Morris Cooper S's we serviced.
Hearse. You serviced the hearse.
Oh yeah, we serviced Ray Owens' hearse, 2 hearse. A lot of people were dying to get a ride in them, but we were servicing them. We had to take them for runs. It was extremely good business, yes. It was just unfortunate it blew up in the end, and we were probably both to blame for that. But anyway, that's history. It was good while it lasted.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Was that your real passion for work?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
What started your love of cars?
Well, I probably started off, as I said earlier, with a BSA Bantam motorcycle. Then I proceeded to upgrade to a Triumph Tiger 100 motorcycle, and then progressed to a 53 standard 10 motor car, 4-door motor car, which we went on our honeymoon in that to Queensland. Then I had a Renault 750, a Renault. I don't think we got enough time to go through all these. Yeah, Triumph Heralds, we had 3 of those over a period of time. And a Triumph 2000 sedan, which was a great motor car. Then a Ford Falcon GT, a brute of a big motor car. Did a lot of towing all over this country, Tasmania, towing race cars. And Triumph Stag convertible.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely car. Yeah, Triumph 2500 sedan. Had 2 of them over a period of time. And TR7 sports car. Had 2 of them over a period of time. And finally a Toyota Camry. Great Japanese motor car.
Can we just talk about your kids? So what children do you have?
Well, the eldest is Keith.
Keith was first born. He's 66 today, and he was a spray painter. That was his trade, and he was very good at it. Then Linda, our first daughter, she's 64 today, and she was a sonographer, is that?
Stenographer.
Yes, and very good at it. And she could sing. She used to sing at weddings and things like that. And Wayne is the boy that inherited Strong's farm, and he has a lovely family and a beautiful wife. And Wayne was a boilermaker. Neville's a horticulturist. He has a nursery business in Millbank Road, Torreira. He has a wife and 2 lovely boys with their families. Where am I up to? Neville. And then after Neville started school, I thought, oh, right, this is nice, I'm free. And I had another baby. Deirdre. Deirdre's a very successful accountant in Bomaderry, and she's 51. And she has 3 lovely children, and we're very close to that family. All the family we're close to. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, my eldest brother, he got the property, yes.
So where did that leave you?
I and my 2 sisters, we were covered with other things. My mother owned a house in town here, and yes, and that was split between the 3 of us, yes. Yeah, that finished up okay.
Do you recall any other stories about your grandfather, the type of man he was?
When my brother died, well, we had to clean the house out, and one of the rooms, nothing had ever been thrown away in the records department or that type of stuff, and it was stuff relating back to 1800s there, checkbook butts and things like this, and work diaries from the turn of the century, and some incredible stuff that was in there. And anyway, I did keep it all and put it into an old suitcase, and it's interesting to look back through some of that stuff at times, it is.
Just getting back to, how long were you in the dairying industry?
I suppose from the time I was born up until I was 19, when I bought the milk run.
How long did you run the milk?
milk run, 10, 12 years.
What sort of things did you see changing at the cooperatives?
Over those years, I suppose, the different method of the milk cans going up to the chap who was tipping the milk into the vats, and we progressed and we had big conveyor chains taking the milk cans around and then going through a washing area. For that era, it was great mechanisation. Fantastic.
Can you remember some of the names of the people that worked at Berry Co-op?
Yes, on the milk side, yes. Artie Coles, he was a good man, Artie Coles. Odie Smith, they were the two main ones on the stage, I'll call it. They received the cans as we rolled the cans off to them. They'd pull the lid off, poke the head in, smell it, make sure it's not sour. And then the chap who looked after the produce side of it, which is still the same today, the produce sheds down there. And Kurt Moy was his name. He was particularly good to me because when I progressed to a better truck that I felt I could do outside work with confidence, most of the produce that came and was stored at the Berry Co-op came from a depot in Dapto, and it always come by rail to Berry, and then was all floated from the rail trucks into the shed. So I approached this Kurt Moy. I said, well, I'm not got a lot of work between morning milk runs and afternoon milk runs. How can I compete with a railway? I said, can you give me an idea, some figures? Which he did, and I got some extra work out of that by going to Dapto and bringing produce down to Berry Co-op, which was fantastic.
Good thinking. You a good businessman?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yes, he was.
We went all right.
What are some of the important things about your mind that demonstrated, your business ability? What gifts did you have, do you think?
I didn't think I had many, and I think I had a good work ethic. Well, you had to be honest, yes.
Certainly helps. When did you get your first tractor?
That must have been, when we retired, the draft horses, must have been 51, 52, I suppose.
What sort of tractor?
A Ferguson TEA 20, wonderful little tractor with the hydraulic rear lifts. Wonderful innovation to farming it was, absolutely.
What were some of the benefits of that tractor?
You didn't have to go and bridle the horses or...
Time.
Yeah, time, that's right.
Speed.
My brother, he was a pretty cluey bloke. He might have only had 1.5 hands. The local farm machinery distributor, Frank Morehouse and Sons in Nowra, they were the Ferguson dealers, plus a lot of other implements. And whenever a new implement came on the market, they'd come out to Glenbrae, Jaspers, Rush, my brother, and they'd arrange a field day with the new implements to show the farmers what's new on the market and how it's going to help them with their ploughing and harrowing and whatever. I've got ahead of myself here. In the transition from the horse-drawn implements of the day to the tractor implements, it meant the tractor implements all had a 3-point linkage on the back, which you pull the lever and you'd lift the machinery off the ground at the back and let it do it. Anyway, my brother transformed all the horse-drawn implements to suit the 3-point linkage on the Ferguson tractor. But he was pretty clever in that department. Well, these were the dairy farmers on Strongs Road, from the highway travelling west on Strongs Road. Roy Herbert was the first dairy farmer on the right-hand side. Travelling further up, we had Jack Alexander on the right-hand side. A little further, Stuart Matthey up on the hill, overlooked Strongs. Further on Strongs Road, we have the Strong property. And then as we travelled a bit further west, Dick Bates was up on the left, and then off to the right, we have the Fawkes' property, way up on the hill. Cecil Fawkes was the first property as you wander up the hill, and his brother a little further on, the other Forks, and I can't think of his first name. Come back to Strongs Road. That was just an artery off Strongs Road where those Forks had lived. We go a little bit further up, and there was a road that shot off down around across Jaspers Creek, and the Harveys lived there. They were quite a big family of boys. Come back to Strongs Road and head up the hill west towards the escarpment to Burnside was the name of the property. My uncle Bill Smith, he leased and dairy farmed that property.
We didn't talk about how your spiritual or religious life played out as a young person. What churches did you attend, or a church, and did you go to Sunday school? Like, how did that work?
Yes, we attended the Berry Methodist Church. I attended Sunday school every Sunday morning. We went to church service at 11 a.m. We went to the 7 p.m. service on a Sunday night. It was full on. Throughout all my Sunday school activities, from probably age 5, 6 on, I suppose, up until 14, because I'd done all my exams through the church, it was thought that I was going to go on to the ministry, but a lot of things happened and changed, and that didn't eventuate.
So it was important to you, your faith?
Yeah, then I believe it was, yes. Well, it was a way of life. It's just what you did.
Did you pray daily?
No.
What about your parents? How did the Methodist religion influence their lives and their contribution to the community?
I'd say it was fairly large. Big services within the church.
What sort of service were they doing for others?
One of the main ones that I can recall, Berry had what we called a boys' farm. It was run by the state just out of town, and the church on a Sunday morning would go out and bring some of the boys in to the church services and then take them to their homes for Sunday lunch, and then take them back to the establishment later in that afternoon.
Who were some of your parents' friends in that community?
Well, my mother, after my father passed away, and my mother ran the property, and she was very close with neighbouring people, and they would, on Sunday afternoons for afternoon tea, around various farms within Strongs Road and O'Keefe's Lane.
Did you marry at your church?
Yes.
Changing the subject. Oh, did you want to say more about that?
No.
In the reserves, you took up boxing. Were you a good boxer? And what attracted you to boxing? I suppose, was it a common thing historically?
Oh, it was just another outlet, I suppose, in town. Rugby league was probably the largest. I played rugby league, 53, 54, under 18s. And then boxing came to town, so I got involved in that. My mother hated it, and then conscripted into the army in 54. We were compelled to take a sport as part of our training, and because I'd done a bit of boxing, I continued in that vein throughout the services. Never won too many events, a lot of draws anyway.
Did it hurt?
Don't recall.
I'm with Ray Strong today at his son's property, Wayne, and we've just been going through some photos, and I'm looking out at a veranda here, and I believe you were quite connected to the veranda.
That was our sleeping berth.
Whose?
My brother John and myself. We slept on the veranda for a number of years. We didn't have any protection from the north in the early times, and then my mother bought a couple of blinds and put some blinds up. That was a big help, except that they rattled something fierce. I can still hear them rattling. No worse than louvers rattling, and they're pretty bad.
So how were the Westleys for you out there?
Unbelievable.
All year round or particular seasons?
August, August Wesleys.
How was your bed? What was it, and how did you keep the covers on?
Pretty basic bed. Well, at some stages, the Wesley was that bad. Well, to keep the blankets on, I'd tie a rope around the whole blanket and the bed, and that helped me through the night.
You didn't suffer from claustrophobia?
Was that a word around in my time? Stress wasn't in our vocabulary either. You weren't allowed to be.
Did you have a bit of foam or to sleep on, or was it just on the hard veranda?
No, it was a kapok mattress affair, yeah.
What did you just say, what you slept on?
Kapok.
What's that?
I don't know, because that was what it was called.
And you had your walk-through robe next to it with the wardrobe. There was a little building there, was there?
Yes, on the end of the house, that's right. We changed it in there. Kept our clothes in there, all pretty basic stuff, but that's what you did.
How old were you when you started sleeping on the veranda?
Maybe 13, 14.
Any animals visit you?
No, when I was too tired and asleep, wouldn't know.
What time would you go to rest, to bed?
Oh, probably pretty early. Dad and Dave's show was over on the wireless. We used to always have to be in the house by about 5:45 for Mrs. Hobbs. You remember Mrs. Hobbs?
Tell me about it.
Oh, it was a serial, and the other one was a search for the golden boomerang. That was exciting. There were 3 kids with their ears glued to the radio over there.
Where was your mum? Describe what she's doing here in this space, which I assume was the cooking area?
Yeah, she kept us fed and watered.
Open fire, was it? Or a bit more fancier?
We did have 2 open fires. We never used to use them much because they used wood and we had to go and get the wood.
You're sounding a bit lazy, Ray.
Yes.
How long was your working day? On the property, was it?
Yes, on the property. Oh, I suppose it was 5 o'clock. One of us go bring the cattle in from out the paddocks, and the other one set the dairy up for milking, put the machinery together.
How did you get on with your brother?
We weren't real good mates, but we tolerated each other.
Different personalities?
Yeah, possibly. He was older than me, so he was a boss. He was the boss.
He didn't pick on you too much, did he?
No, not too much. He used to belt me occasionally when we went to school on the horse, when he doubled me on the horse, but anyway.
Why would he do that?
I don't know.
So you get on the horse to go to school?
Yes, in the early days we had a doubling saddle, and we'd both go to Jaspers Rush School on the horse, and he went off to high school, so I continued to use the horse with a single saddle. I believe those saddles are still here.
You didn't wear shoes when you worked on the property?
No, they were a luxury.
Did you wear shoes to school?
No.
Did you have a school uniform?
No.
Not a private school then?
No, not quite.
I want to ask you about the garden here, what it means to you.
Well, this area originally was the dairy holding yard for the cattle. As they got milked, they came into this big area here.
So the dairy's here on our right. Tell me about the floor, and the cement goes out a bit.
When my grandfather passed away, my father and his brother, Thomas Alfred, decided to split the farm into 2. The dairy was, of course, had been operating on Glenbrae, the main property, before they split it. And when they split it, well, my father then had to put these bales, the silo and 2 cream sheds up there. That was back in about 35, I believe. But this area had a big holding yard. That holding yard was still here, I think, when Wayne was around. And it was ringed with big coral trees. And the main reason they used coral trees was for the shade in the summertime, which were excellent, even though they were a terrible tree. And from the holding yard, they'd then come into this concrete second holding yard, and from there, well, we'd pick the cattle out from there and into the 3 lots of bales in the dairy. And this was the cream shed here on the right, the milk shed, later become the holding vat for the milk.
Was it a walk-through? Or?
All the doors were on that side of the building, and you had a long shaft, and you opened the door with the shaft, and they walked out into the big holding area, which I spoke to you about earlier up there. Well, back in that early era, we always milked between 40 and 50.
Did you ever get kicked by a cow?
Yes, because we used to leg rope them, so that didn't happen. Quite a humane thing it was. It was just a normal thing, and the cows accepted that. Poked their back leg out, and you put a leg rope around and tied it to a post.
Was it all shorthorns?
In the early times, it was all Illawarra shorthorns, with the occasional jersey thrown in to help bring the butter fat up.
10-gallon cans?
Yeah, I think Wayne's still got one here, one left. Yeah, it's an Alpha Labelle. They were the heaviest of all the 10-gallon cans. Did you keep an 8-gallon or a 6, or weren't they here? As I told you before, they were cream cans, the 6-gallon and the 8-gallon.
I hope you enjoyed today's recording. the first episode of Season 2, Jaspers Brush. I did do an introductory episode that you can find online, and that was launched a few days ago. Probably want to have a listen to that before you have a listen to this. But anyway, I'll see you in a few weeks with episode 2. Thanks so much.